Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tavern. Okay, who's been messing with my settings? I know this is the April Fool's video, but come on, someone be mature. Just okay. For those who don't know, this is the April Fool's video. It says so in the title, and now I'm a silly fox man because, sure. For those who don't know, this is a day where you celebrate by playing pranks on other people in your life. Usually harmless kind of things, like messing with their video settings. But a lot of different cultures actually celebrate this holiday in very different ways. However, that's not what my videos are really about. They tend to be about the lore and the mythology and the history that goes into certain types of events. And, well, the joke's on all of us because April Fool's Day has very vague starting points and a lot of contradictory information. It's almost as if someone from the future went back in time to just give different people different origins and said, oh man, this is gonna be hilarious. And of course, because I've been sick, this whole video got delayed. So, joke was on me. Anyhow, let's get into the history of April Fool's Day after I fix my settings. All right. Now that whole mess is taken care of, let's get into the history of April Fool's Day. We first begin with a Roman celebration right around that time period. However, this celebration has nothing to do with pranks. It's just a party because ancient Rome, and doesn't really fit into the whole paradigm that well other than being around the same time. And that brings us to Chaucer, who wrote the Canterbury Tales. In 1392, he did the Nun's Priest's Story, in which the arrogant rooster Chanticleer gets tricked by a fox into believing that March has 32 days. And when he realizes he's been tricked, he tricks the fox back. This could definitely fall in that category of there's some sort of idea of an end of March pranking kind of celebration, but it isn't actually tied into April Fool's per se. Also, the way the calendar was set up, it wouldn't have actually put it on April 1st, and unfortunately that ties directly into the next part of what people believe to be the origin of April Fools. Many people believe this to be the legitimate origin of April Fools. What is normally believed to be the start of the April Fool's tradition comes from August 1564. At this time, Charles IX of France essentially established a new calendar that would be the main calendar that people would go by. Primarily, this changed the date of New Year's to January 1st instead of Easter. This was done because obviously Easter is based on a lunar schedule and it shifts around where the new year starts. So because of this, when people would celebrate New Year's around April 1st, people would call them April Fools because you're celebrating on the wrong day, idiots. We did New Year's, 3 months ago or 4 months ago, depending on when Easter showed up, because Easter could be in March, but whatever. Anyhow, this is usually considered the main version of the story. But again, we don't really have a lot of proof to that. We also know that in France, the tradition started to develop of the Poisson d'Avril, or April fish, where it became a tradition for kids to put paper fishes on each other as a way of making fun of other people during the April Fool's time period. The general concept comes from the idea that during the spring, all the young fish are born, there's a lot of them, and they're easy to catch. In other words, like a fool, you're very easy to trick. The phrase Poisson d'Avril is usually attributed to Aloy de Amival, who is a composer and poet. In his 1508 work, Le Livre de Liberté, used the term April fish to describe a character. This was well before the change of the calendar, so it feels like it should be an origin. However, it seems to me that over time, the poem's phrase and the term used by the French slowly merged into the April Fool's tradition. While the New Year's tradition seems to be the main one people go with, it is contradicted by, again, another earlier story. This time in 1561, the Flemish poet Edouard de Denny ended up creating the idea of the fool's errand, where a wealthy person will send one of their servants out on an empty quest to find something that doesn't exist, or to deliver something silly, or to just waste that servant's time. So the Fool's Errand kind of ties into that April Fool kind of thing as well, where it's the rich playing tricks on the poor. Thanks for that, rich people. And again, it occurs before the Charles IX story, much like the Canterbury Tales, which gives us the general idea that April Fools must have come from something earlier. And yet we have no evidence of what that earlier thing is. We do know that by 1686, there are reports of April Fool's Day traditions going on in England. Their version is a little bit different than what we're used to here in America. If you play a prank before noon, the person who got pranked is the fool. However, if you're sloppy and don't prank someone until after noon, you are the fool for some reason. And this holiday is stupid, and I can't believe it doesn't have just a legit starting point. I'd have been fine if a card company made it up, but this is what we have. But don't worry, it's not just Europe. India has a tradition like this too. In India, they have a time of celebration called Falguna. And during the celebration, if there's a full moon, they have Holi, which is a time to go and throw powder on each other and water on each other and kind of do simple, silly kind of pranks. Stuff that feels like things children would really do to each other. But adults can also perform in this as well as a way of just kind of being frivolous and silly. However, after that, everyone cleans up and you visit friends and family. So it begins as playing around and being silly, and then ending with actually showing reverence and respect for each other, making it a very different type of holiday. And for those interested, the Falguna festival also ties into the worship of Krishna, who is, depending on what sect of Hinduism you're kind of into, is one of the top tier gods. We don't have a good starting point for the traditions. We just know they started happening. And a lot of different countries celebrate in a lot of different ways. For those who care about North America, we got the tradition as early as the 1770s. The British and French traditions made their way to Canada and to New England, and were celebrated over here, and have remained celebrated over here to some extent. I don't feel like April Fool's is quite as popular nowadays as it has been in previous generations, but as someone who used to pull pranks and get in trouble for it, there might be a reason why they started being a little bit more strict on April Fools. Regardless of where it started, it's a silly tradition, and a lot of people, especially people in the media, still kind of follow it by bringing up silly fake stories, posting silly stuff on social media, or just giving people prank phone calls and childish stuff like that. While the majority of people don't really celebrate this as a holiday, because it's not, as a form of secular tradition, it is fun and generally doesn't harm anybody. Normally, I really try hard to do a lot of research and find the answers to what created specific holidays and what the stories are behind certain legends. And this time, every source I went to all gave me different stories. And I integrated those together into this video, but no one could ever give me the starting point, the original tradition. And perhaps that's the greatest trick of all. Until next time, please let me know what your favorite or least favorite April Fool's prank was, whether it happened to you or someone else. And if you liked this video, please like the video and subscribe and all that good stuff, because I like making Tavern Tales videos. They make me happy. I love doing the research and love sharing the knowledge of everybody. So hopefully we can get more people into my Tavern Tales and hopefully get more requests for different stories you'd like to see me explore. However, until that happens, I'll see you at the tavern.